want to start this video by telling you a little bit about me. As if that's not all you've heard so far, which of course it is. So I want to talk about... I did my degree, finished it in 2005. Personally, I went into that degree thinking it was the only way for me to move to London in the big city without having to immediately get a job and find a place to live. That was it. And I loved it, and it was a brilliant experience, and I learned loads of things. Didn't get very much from the academic side. It was a degree for people that wanted to have careers in the music industry. Can't think of any of them now. Now that I'm trying to think of them, I can't think of them. As soon as I graduated, I started working with students that had disabilities, mentoring them, getting them through their degrees, different London universities. So I did it for 8 years, 20 plus students. Radio, computer science, psychology twice with 2 different students at 2 different universities, which was really interesting to compare those two. And I also lectured in music at a couple of universities, and I taught SEN students doing performing arts qualifications at sixth form college too, just to get the most basic access to a course that you're paying to do. I've never seen such a lack of advocacy. These universities had entire departments that were supposedly dedicated to serving those students, but it ended up being left to people like me to actually be the pushy one, and I got yelled at by lecturers. If I wasn't taking part in the group, they would pick on me, and then I'd have to say, well, I'm not actually doing this course, I am supporting the student. You're supposed to be an invisible assistant, so you're not supposed to announce yourself to a lecturer, but you do imagine that a university might have had the forethought to tell this lecturer, give them a heads up, that they'll have someone they don't recognise that isn't doing the course in the room, who will not be putting their hand up to say something unless they are doing so at that student's request. I had no training, and I wasn't prepared to be singled out and told off in front of a room full of students. It just really wasn't something that I was expecting to happen. Because the work that I was doing supporting students with disabilities was only part-time, I filled in the rest of my time with various other roles in a substance misuse service. Some horrific stories. I come to addiction with that lens, having been someone that's addicted to a substance, to deal with the emotional turmoil that I was going through when I was untreated. I met John Mann, who was the MP, who was dealing with the new drug strategy, and I was invited to be part of a panel of advisors to talk specifically about over-the-counter medication that can be addictive. I talked in a previous video about my codeine addiction story, but as a result there was much clearer labelling added to boxes to say if you take this medication for more than 3 days in a row, or if you take more than the recommended dose, it is addictive. That's a solid result of something that activism can do. I saw Aizal Mazard and Vegan Cheetah, 2 people I very much respect and enjoy watching their content. I saw them having a discussion about the gurus in the vegan world, the people that are seen as being leader figures, but actually outside of the YouTube bubble, and if the YouTube bubble didn't exist, it might be completely different. Is that a really short-sighted way of trying to affect change? Kind of means fuck all outside of YouTube. YouTube, by its very nature, it kind of sucks you into a wormhole, and you'll go round and round in circles, and you'll find all the content there is, and then you'll probably get bored and move on to the next thing. I'm not assuming that this channel is my activism for mental health, because it really isn't. In a charity that I work for called Rethink Mental Illness. They provide services, advocacy, advice, campaigns and lobbying on topics around mental health, and I sit on one of their committees for my area in London, and that is a role that I think I can use to affect change. I've already gone past the point where it's going to matter prospective employers if I want to change my job. Couldn't care less if people can Google me, see my YouTube channel and think it's going to be a right pain in the ass. That's fair enough. I would rather it all be out there because I'm not ashamed and I don't have anything to hide. We're on the precipice right now, the beginnings of a culture change. Just people that have mental illnesses considering themselves to be of value. That is something that's going to be very slow progress. But I have seen progress, even with that in the last couple of years. None of the things that I do in isolation are really activism. You can make YouTube videos or whatever it is that you do. If the place that you set out to save is still crumbling, then you've achieved absolutely nothing other than fame for yourself, which, is a draw for most people. Well, most people won't turn fame down if it comes knocking. Really, it depends what your reasons are for doing activism in the first place. I've always struggled to understand why people don't want to talk about mental health, because to me, I happily just talk away about it all day. It's what I think about when nothing else is going on, rare moments when nothing else is going on. I'm forcing myself to do things like speaking at conferences and creating events and chairing committees, and none of those things alone will be big enough. I look at some of the stuff that people do on YouTube and I just think, how is this helping anybody? They're not looking at how we can support people in places where mental health is really heavily stigmatized. We've come a long way from people throwing themselves under horses for women's rights to now where we've got this access to creating content. We can do whatever the hell we want. We can say what we want. We need to do something that actually counts, how employers can support those with mental illness to work. It's something that the government in the UK are very interested in, and I will try as much as I can to get an audience with them so that I can talk to them about mental health properly and engage with them one-on-one to, human to human, without all the bullshit bureaucracy that comes in the middle of it most of the time. That's what I do roughly in a very, I want to say small nutshell, but it was probably very big. Bye!